Hello, welcome to the Burn KC ScorchCast. I am your host, Alex Blackburn. Happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody out there. Today, we remember the fallen troops that gave their lives for this country. Remember the reason for the season. It's not just about a 3-day weekend. It's got a bit heavier of a meaning. So just keep that in mind. But I'm happy that I could join you guys. Had a very busy weekend, very busy holiday weekend. Celebrating my girlfriend's birthday as well. Happy birthday to my girlfriend Sarah. I like to call her my soccer insider. For those that don't know her very well, she's pretty good in the soccer department. So happy birthday to her. Got a pretty decent sized show for you today. Got some college basketball news to go over. A certain Kansas Jayhawk is back and what that means for said Jayhawks. NBA draft news, just kind of where I'm predicting everybody to go. We got some college football news for the first time this year. Gonna talk some rankings and talk the way too early rankings that I put out that kind of upset a few people. But hey, you know, when you have hot takes like I do, sometimes you do upset people. So we'll go over those. Go over the Royals, of course, the general Big 12 stuff that's being talked about regarding a super conference with them. Not the Royals, just the Big 12 being a super conference. The Royals have absolutely nothing to do with the Big 12 other than proximity. But going on further, got some SKC news, some current news, and then a few other little tidbits of information that I'm going to throw your way. So strap in, sit tight, enjoy the ride, and let's get started. All right, first and foremost, let's go over some college basketball news. Kevin McCullough is returning to the Kansas Jayhawks for another season. The star forward from last year had some pretty nice stats, was a pretty good contributor for the Jayhawks in their Big 12 championship run. They definitely made some waves. Unfortunately, lost to Arkansas in the second round of the NCAA tournament. But I think that's one of the reasons why McCullough is coming back. I think he wants a national title. I know he just lost out on one while he was at Texas Tech. He lost out on one at KU in kind of heartbreaking fashion. So it's I think he's due. And judging by the team that KU is forming around him, uh, they've got a great chance. So now you got Hunter Dickinson, you've got DeJuan Harris, you've got Kevin McCullough, either Arteria Morris or Nick Timberlake, um, and then KJ Adams kind of rounding out that starting five. It's gonna be a good one. I feel like it's gonna be a real good one. Kind of a very on brand self coached team. Phil Self, that is. It's got height, it's got defense, it's got consistent offense that shares the ball. The only questions that I really have now are who's going to end up being the leader for this KU basketball team. Obviously, you've got a team full of older guys like Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, and now Kevin McCullough. So, who is going to take the reins and kind of lead the charge there and become this team leader? I think it could be really anybody. But my best guesses are probably DeJuan Harris, um, Kevin McCullough, or Hunter Dickinson. Honestly, just given Hunter's personality and how long he's been in the game and whatnot, it's just kind of makes sense that he's up there with those guys as well in terms of team leaders. Now, since Kevin McCullough has withdrawn his name from the NBA draft. That leaves just Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick for the Kansas Jayhawks. However, there are more local players that are in the NBA draft process. You've got Kobe Brown from Missouri. You've got Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel from Kansas State. So there's other guys that are going to be drafted this year. And we're kind of going to go over now just where exactly they'll end up. I think Grady Dick is potentially the most likely round one pick. Um, he's going to be a lottery pick. Just he's going to be probably top 10. I see a lot of mock drafts having going to the Jazz. So he would be joining Udoka Azubuike as well as Ochai Agbaji there. Jalen Wilson, I've seen in the early to mid second round. I think that's about right. I could see him potentially sneaking into the first round, depending on how the combine goes. As far as I've heard, it's gone over decently for him. He's been through this process before. He tested the NBA waters, I think, twice now. So it's looking good for him. I think he'll be at least a mid second round pick. Um, and he'll have the chance to show what he's got. So we'll just have to see what that happen if that happens. As far as Keontae Johnson and Kobe Brown and Marquise Noel go, Kobe Brown again is right up there, kind of with Jalen. He's probably going to be early to mid second round. Keontae Johnson again maybe sneaks into the first round, but I predict him as an early second rounder. He helps the Wildcats to that Elite Eight run. He's a great player. He wasn't, you know, it wasn't just the Marquise Noel show. It was Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson. So I expect him to be drafted, somewhere. Maybe not in the first round, but definitely in the second round. As far as Marquise Noel goes, I know height for him is a big, big factor. I don't think it keeps him from getting drafted, but I think it keeps him from getting drafted high. I have him in the mid to late second round. And I know, a lot of the K State people are going to be like, well, he was our best player last year. He won point guard of the year, blah, 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 blah. Uh, yeah, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's an awesome player. But the age of, tiny point guards is kind of over in the NBA. Like they're looking for athletes, NBA body types almost. And not saying that Marquise Noel doesn't have the chance to succeed, but I mean, look at Frank Mason. Frank Mason was National Player of the Year. He looked like an NBA caliber talent throughout his National Player of the Year season, and now he's not even on an NBA roster because he just had this play mentality, much like Marquise Noel does. Drive the ball, be be that kind of point of attack yourself while using the supporting cast is kind of how he treated playing basketball, which, in the NBA, yeah, that's the right mindset, but it's not the right body type to be playing that kind of basketball. When you see smaller players in the NBA, generally they're perimeter shooters, generally they're passers, guys that don't normally drive the paint. But given what we see from Marquise Noel, that could prove to be an issue. I mean, he's a good shooter. Don't get me wrong. He can get hot really quick, but that's a big question is his size. And I know the NBA scouts are going to be looking at that pretty intently. Um, because I mean he's a great player, and I'm sure an NBA roster will have him on for at least the summer. But as far as him being on a roster during the regular season, an actual NBA roster, not G League or anything like that, there's some question marks. There's some question marks about all players, um, given what we've seen in the NBA. Um, there's a lot more busts in the NBA than there are in, say, the NFL draft. Um, and you got to kind of pick that diamond out of the rough. So maybe Marquise Noel will be the diamond out of the rough. Maybe any of these guys could be the diamond in the rough. I know that Jalen Wilson is being underrated. I think Keontae Johnson's being underrated too. I think there was a lot of questions surrounding his health that kind of came about, but he's looking healthy now. He passed his physical. He's cleared for the NBA draft. So that's a big question mark erased. Um, and then Kobe Brown. Kobe Brown's really scrappy. He's a great shooter. And he took over games sometimes for the Missouri Tigers. I think he has a chance to potentially sneak into the first round. If depending on what kind of talent goes off the board in the first round. We'll just have to see where he'll end up. It's still fairly early. The draft is, I think, in July. Last time I checked, maybe in June. It's actually in June. Now that I think about it, I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I don't keep up with the NBA all that well. I will be watching the game 7 tonight, though. So, um, yeah, that's all I got for college basketball. Let's go into college football, shall we? All right, folks. We got to talk about this list that I made on Thursday. Um, the Big 12, way too early rankings came out this past Thursday from the Burn KC. Um, and we had a few people that were really excited. KU fans were over the moon. Most of them were. My grandfather had a comment that I will mention later. But most KU fans, were celebrating it because I rated KU at number 2 in the Big 12. Obviously, Texas in first, and then K State in third. You can see where I'm going with this. There were a lot of very, very unhappy Kansas State fans. Um, to be frank, I don't blame you, but also it's not even June yet. These football rankings aren't meant to be taken too terribly serious. And boy, howdy did they. Um, oof. Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at this list of comments here on the post. Um, oh boy. So I'm just gonna give a general summary of these Reddit comments here, as well as just the good and the bad. So don't worry, there's good comments too. But let's look at the bad first. Um, you got a comment here saying the overrating of Jalen Daniels is incredible. Blah 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 blah. He gets fat off. He gets fat stats off of awful pass defenses, and you saw what happened against ISU, TCU, blah blah blah. It don't have explosive players on offense either. Best player on defense is now gone as well. I'm not sure who you're talking about there. I'm assuming it's Lonnie Phelps. Um, Kenny Logan's still on the team. Kobe Bryant's still on the team. That they return a lot more than you think. Um, I don't know. Just there's. Let me just. Wow. Sorry. I'm just looking at this because like. Uh, yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm just looking through this list of comments. So basically, the general gist. I'm trying to summarize what the K State fans said because, frankly speaking, there were 12 comments on this. All not all that happy that I rated KU ahead of Kansas State. Um, Given the momentum and the amount of returning players KU has, we can assume that they'll be better than last year. We can. In all honesty, we can. I know there are a lot of people that are saying, well, they lose their pass rush and Lonnie Phelps and Caleb Sampson and Sam Burton, blah, blah, blah. Uh, Not necessarily. They got a lot of transfer portal pickups. They got, which, proved to be a success last year with Lonnie Phelps, um, as well as a few other key pieces that in all honesty, will make this defense the same as what it was, if not better. I think the big questions are on defense because the offense returns 9 out of 11 starters, and all the skill players return, which is huge. And I get it, like, well, there's no explosive players. Have you seen Devin Neal in the open field? Have you seen Daniel Highshaw in the open field? Mason Fairchild is a great receiving tight end. Lawrence Arnold can get separation and make those tough catches. We've seen it. Uh, what I've seen from both the KU and the K State fans is that you guys don't watch a ton of each other's games, do you? Um, it shows because, frankly speaking, you got K State fans saying that, well, KU doesn't have any, you know, explosive players, and the offense is incredibly overrated. Blah blah blah. The reason KU lost against you guys was because of special teams. Special teams was god awful last year. And as long as KU improves on that, I think, frankly, they'll be light years better than what they were. And in all honesty, if KU's special teams didn't screw the pooch on multiple occasions during that KU K State game, it would have been a lot closer. And honestly, KU may have won it even because there were times where KU was driving the ball, where KU looked really, really good against you guys. And, on the flip side, there's a lot of KU people saying that, well, you know, K State lost all their playmakers. No, they didn't. K State still has plenty of playmakers. They just picked up a great running back in Trayshawn Ward, um, who, exploded at Florida State. And now he's a transfer to K State who excels a ton on the ground. I mean, you see the last few running backs that K State has had, and you understand that. So there's a give and take here. I think the general consensus is y'all got to watch more Big 12 football. Do I think KU is absolutely going to finish number 2? Absolutely not. Again, it's not even June yet. I have no idea what kind of team KU is going to field. I have a rough idea. Well, I shouldn't say I have no idea. I have a rough idea, but I have a rough idea on every single Big 12 team. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me today. But let's kind of see what r/Jayhawks has to say. Atomic Mark says 10-2 feels like a pipe dream, but who knows? At least KU fans are honest. Another prediction I saw had them at 6-5. If JD6 stays healthy, we will be in it in each game of the season. We were 3-2 in one-score games last season. If the cards fall just right, we might be talking about a Big 12 championship game berth. Realistically, they'll drop some of them. 7 or 8 wins is more my hope, with 5 wins being on the bottom side if the cards fall to the other team each time. That's probably my most realistic prediction is what was just said. Yeah, 7 or 8 wins is, in all honesty, what I think KU will probably do. Um, I'm gonna just put KU at number 2 to tick off some Wildcat fans, and I apologize, but it's all in good fun. Don't take this list too seriously. It's not even June. We still have another 3 months until college football season. Give it a rest. Like we barely got through spring games. Come on, guys. I don't know, but that's just kind of what I saw. Oh, yeah, and my grandpa said, number 2 is a bit steep for Kansas. Or let me read the exact comment. Hold on. And I lost it. Oh, there it is. Grandson, I'm worried about you, KU number 2, huh? Um, it's not that serious. I promise it's not. I'm sorry for anyone that I severely triggered with my way too early rankings in May for Big 12 football. It is anybody's game. I think this will be the most competitive season of Big 12 football that we have seen in a very long time. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could easily be competing for a Big 12 title. A lot of them. So it's going to be a fun season. So okay, and a little bit more serious Big 12 news. Um, It's not a way too early Big 12 rankings that has KU in a pipe dream situation. Um, we got to go over super conferences and the logistics of it all. There's been a lot of talk about the Big 12 taking in teams such as Utah, Arizona, Colorado, Air Force, Boise State, blah, blah, blah. Insert random college here. Because in all honesty, it's completely random what I've seen. I mean, I've seen UConn. Like, what? But it's a serious topic because that's just the way college sports is going right now. Is in the direction of these kind of super conferences. The Big Ten is already a couple steps ahead of the Big 12. We'll get into that a little bit more once we get through kind of the comments of this poll that I put out. Basically, what the question said: who should the Big 12 join next, or who should join the Big 12 next? Do you even want to see the Big 12 expand? And we had some answers to that. Derek Pearson says in the most big red of fashions, Nebraska. And what I said to him was bringing Big Red back. Oh, jeez, I lost it. Hold on. Bringing Big Red back, especially if they turn it around in football, could be prove to be pretty cool. It's got to stop doing that. Bring back Colorado too, and renew another an old Big 12 rivalry. I'd say Nebraska and Colorado kind of makes sense, but Nebraska's probably not going to lead the Big Ten, especially if they get good at football. I think the Big Ten will kind of keep them there. Um, unless Matt Rule ruins this team too. We'll see. But yeah, Nebraska, Colorado, we're up there. Um, there is another comment here that says no expansion. It will get too out of hand and too hard on student athletes and institutions. Uh, it's a decent take. I mean, small schools are probably going to suffer because of this. Those group of 5 schools that aren't in those Power 5 conferences, they'll probably suffer because they don't have that NIL money. They don't have that conference money flowing in. They will have even lesser competition because all the better schools that prove to that are not a group of 5 team, see Cincinnati, see Houston, see all the teams that are joining the Big 12 right now. Um, that could prove to be fatal for some of these conferences. I mean, I don't want to see the MAC go. I don't want to see the American dissolve. And I kind of don't want to see the Pac-12 dissolve, but unfortunately, that's probably where we're headed. Um, and it's kind of the drawback of the NIL market is that you're going to see these smaller schools suffer and suffer greatly unless they can get some sort of NIL plan down that is foolproof. So that's another comment that I ended up seeing. Um, I saw another one for Mizzou. Again, another pipe dream. They're in the SEC, and I don't see them leaving anytime soon, especially to come back to a conference that kind of did them dirty on the way out. Uh, but I'm all for renewing old rivalries, especially if that means KU can beat up on the Tigers and the Tigers can stop ducking Kansas. That's right, I said it. But yeah, just another comment that we got here: Arizona, Colorado, and Yukon got to expand both east and west to keep up. I would say this is the most realistic and feasible option out of everything. Judging by the ways other conferences are moving, I would say this is the way. Um, and Big 12 could easily fall apart too if they're not careful and don't play their cards right. So this is a solid move. And Derek Pearson again said. By the way, that was Brett Doze with the last comment, and then Sarah had the comment on Mizzou, and Joe Kacharski had the comment on the no expansion. I apologize for not mentioning you guys. My sincere apologies. Um, but yeah, just Derek showed the expansion of the Big Ten, saying that we're 1 year away from that. Big 12's already behind, and I agree. I I kind of agree because the SEC is not expanding either. The ACC is not expanding either. Um, It's going to be an interesting couple of years. Let's just say that. The whole logistics of everything, like Brett said, you're probably going to have to expand east and west. That's why that's why I kind of brought up the idea of just doing things geographically and just kind of by division, Division A and Division B. And I get it, like, well, we already have an FBS and FCS, so like, why, you know, divide it even further? Well, that way the group of five schools still have a shot. I mean, if this super conference thing happens, it's going to be a lot harder for small schools. So there's a lot to consider. But we'll just have to see what happens. Thanks everybody for answering in the polls. It was very, very good discussion. And I appreciate you guys. So, okay, doke. Time to talk about the Royals. Royals were really, really close to having a combined perfect game today. So maybe this whole pitching talking point that I have here won't, prove to be anything, right? Right? Oh, we'll just have to see. They got rid of Hunter Dozier, so that's good. Not a whole lot changed since, but you know, one player does not make a baseball team. There's plenty of other problems that the Royals have to deal with and that they're currently dealing with. And pitching's one of them. Pitching is still incredibly inconsistent. You've got arms back there that are all-star caliber, and you've got arms back there that shouldn't even be on a AAA team. Um, not gonna name names. Gordon Lyles. Not gonna name names. Um, but yeah, just Josh Stolmont. Sorry. But there's just such inconsistency with the pitching. I mean, it's light years better than what it was under Cal because honestly, if we were still having Cal Eldred coached pitching, this Royals team would be a lot worse. They'd be looking like the A's right now, in all honesty. Not saying that, you know, they are the A's. I hope they're not. At least I hope they're not going down that path because, frankly speaking, if they are, there's no way they're getting a new stadium, and there's a potential that they might move. Yeah. Sorry. I digress. Yeah, pitching still needs a ton of work. Today, though, was an excellent showing from the Royals pitching staff and from the Royals offense. 7-0 over the St. Louis Cardinals, baby. Oh, that's fantastic. I Nothing for nothing. I don't like the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't like their fan base. I think their fan base is a bunch of snobs. And I think, frankly speaking, they overrate the Cardinals every year just for them to underperform. And it's so incredibly annoying to be second fiddle to them in a way. Um, just because they've won more World Series and have been around for longer. You know, uh, they're not as good as you think. So that win feels good. That win feels super good, I bet. And I'm hoping that we can potentially sweep the Cardinals and get back on track, and this may be the turning point. The Royals are 17-38, by the way. If you know, you know. They're 17-38. Say hey, what's up, hello? Sorry. Um, but yeah, just the bats are good. I don't have any problem with the Royals' offense right now. I think they produce enough hits and they're getting runs scored. Um, the major problem right now is the pitching and just how inconsistent it is. I mean, they need to find a bullpen that will get the job done. Um, and starting pitchers that will get the job done and not be wildly inconsistent. I mean, I get it. It's a young bullpen, and Brady Singer still has time, but just throwing him to the wolves like you do sometimes against these really, really good teams doesn't work out too well. I get it. Like, well, the White Sox aren't that good. Well, they're starting to make that turnaround that I wish the Royals would make at some point. And, Brady Singer, Brad Keller's fine, I guess. Amir Garrett's fine. Aroldis Chapman is starting to look like his old self. There's still so much work to be done in that pitching department, and that's kind of where we're at right now with the Royals. Is the offense is producing runs, and they're doing well. Like Bobby Witt Jr. looks really, really good, and Salvador Perez actually looks like he's not an over the hill veteran like he did last year. Um, but just overall, sorry, I just got an upvote on Reddit um, on an article that I posted 3 weeks ago. Um, okay, appreciate the read. But just yeah, that's all I got to say about the Royals. Honestly, it's just the pitching needs some work, and I'm happy that we could get a good old fashioned butt whipping on the Cardinals. There's really not much else to say, and I'm glad Dozier's gone. So who knows where he'll end up? I mean, I think they like relinquished his contract or something like that. I remember seeing something on it, like just him getting relinquished of his contract, which means he's no longer DFA'd. He's just off the team completely. Which it's harsh. Yeah, he wasn't all that great, but just completely kicking him to the curb? Well, okay. I would have settled for a DFA, but do what you want, Royals. You know, do what you want. I guess maybe it's because no one wanted Dozier. Should have capitalized while the trade value was good, like the fan base was telling you. Um, yeah. Enough about the Royals. We'll talk more on them later. Okay. Another just lovely Kansas City sports team. The Sporting Kansas City. Just Sporting Kansas City had a great win over a really good Portland Timbers squad. and have a homestand over these next couple games that if they can grab some wins here, they're right back in the playoff race. You heard that right. Like, I can pull up the standings right now. Like, they're in the playoff race, which is mind-boggling to me. But let's see. So let's see what the table looks like here. So the Western Conference. Sporting Kansas City currently sits. They currently sit at 12th in the Western Conference. The LA Galaxy. I thought the LA Galaxy was good. They're 14th in the Western Conference. But they currently sit at 3 wins, 4 draws, 8 losses. Total points 13. Positions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 qualify for the playoffs. If Sporting can grab some more wins, because so here's what the Western Conference looks like right now. Team number 7 is the Houston Dynamo. They have 5 wins, 3 draws, and 5 losses. If Sporting can sweep this homestand, and Houston, Vancouver, Portland, Austin, and Real Salt Lake can all, do Sporting a favor and lose, they're right back in the playoff race. Like they're not out of this season. This isn't a lost season. I was one of the people that was crying their death knell, saying that, oh man, Vermees may need to get fired after this year. If they can perform well with this homestand and continue to perform well from there and gain some momentum, there's a strong possibility that they make the playoffs this year. God, it sounds like Jim Moore. Playoffs. But yeah, like they got a homestand coming up. They just beat the snot out of a really good Portland Timbers squad. So it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. Sporting Kansas City could very well make the playoffs, even though they are terrible compared to the past years. I think they're better than last year. Honestly, I think they are. But man, if they can make the playoffs this year, that would be crazy. But yeah, they got a homestand coming up. They got FC Dallas next. FC Dallas is. Let me look here. I believe they are ranked 4th in the Western Conference with 6 wins, 5 draws, and 3 losses. So, Sporting Kansas City could easily catch up if they just find their mojo. And they got FC Dallas next, Vancouver, Austin, and then LAFC. LAFC is probably the toughest out of all those. I believe they're in 3rd place. Yeah, they're in 3rd. So they have a shot, which is bonkers to me. Just absolutely bonkers. But anywho, yeah, those are winnable games. I mean, we saw what they did to Portland, so the sky's the limit. If they've found their momentum, Sporting's going to be a dangerous team coming into the meat and potatoes of this MLS season. So we'll be on the lookout for them. I'll be watching that game with intent tonight. I'll be watching Game 7 as well of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, but we'll be watching that game too, and I suggest you as well. So, all right, on to the Kansas City Current. I went to another Kansas City Current game with my girlfriend for her birthday. It was a great time. We had a lot of fun. But they lost 2-0. This is their second loss in a row of 2-0. But it's their fifth loss in a row. That's not good. I really thought that the Current were making a turnaround, and it's just from the past two games that I've watched, it's just been bad soccer. I mean, they're not capitalizing in transition. They're taking too long to develop a shot. They're they're terrible on defense. I mean, this is it's bad defense. They're letting balls go over their head. They're easily baiting any offensive player to come in and steal the ball and have an easy shot on goal. It's they're not clearing the ball well at all, and it's just not good. It's a far cry from what we saw of the national champion runner-up team last year. Um, and what needs to change is what I have in my notes here. Well, I have what needs to change with the Kansas City Current in my notes for the past 5 games. And I just highlighted what needs to change through the last couple talking points that I've had. It just needs to be better soccer. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kansas City Current, they're a good team. They have talent. They just don't have talent that meshes well together, and that lack of chemistry is just killing them. They got kind of beat up in free agency this past year. Got a lot of really decent ladies that have a lot of talent. It's just a matter of exercising that talent and creating chances for that talent to be put on display. Um, there were a lot of missed opportunities these past couple games that just turned into complete debacles because the other team would actually capitalize in transition on the other end, and sometimes it would result in a goal. Um, so basically, what I'm saying is the Current need to find some chemistry. They need to find that winning way again because right around this time is when the Current made the turnaround that saved their season last year and ended up putting them in the playoffs to where they could go all the way to the championship. Am I going to say that that's going to happen? Well, it'll all depend on what kind of chemistry is formulated and whether or not these same mistakes can stop happening. Because frankly speaking, it is the same mistakes every game. The defense doesn't get back quick enough. The offense isn't creating proper chances with enough time to capitalize on said proper chances. Um, the ball movement is rusty at best. And overall, there just needs to be more of a commitment to chemistry. So we'll see if that happens. There's a lot of season left for the women of the Current, and just gotta hold out hope that that same turnaround that happened last year happens again this year. So it who knows? Maybe this is the point where the Royals, Sporting, and the Current all three have a major turnaround. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe Patrick Mahomes can work some Mahomes magic into the two of the three teams that he owns. He might have ownership stake in Sporting too. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I don't think he does, but there's potential. I don't know. I'll look that up. But yeah, can you see Current build some chemistry or continue losing? All right, some minor tidbits to get out of the way before we close our show. The Chiefs started OTAs this past week. Got the rookies signed that they wanted to sign. They're gonna be there. As far as I know, no one skipped OTAs yet. Uh, Frank Clark is rumored to be working out a deal with the Chiefs to return. That could be some pretty big news. Where he'll play is the major question that I have because the Chiefs signed Charles Omenihu already, and have George Karlaftis, and have you know this group of rookies, BJ Thompson, Felix, and Aduke Uzama, eh, all these guys coming in. It would be nice to have Frank back. It's another piece, and it's a veteran piece at that. But I mean, we'll just have to see where he fits in. Because frankly speaking, the Chiefs have done a great job at filling that gap. So, maybe he fits an interior role. Maybe he'll continue to be that edge. Who knows? Um, but I, you know, I could flip a coin, and whether Frank Clark comes back or not is no skin off my bones. Honestly, I think the Chiefs will be fine with or without him. It would be nice to have him back, but we'll just have to see. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Frank Clark situation. DeAndre Hopkins also is rumored to be potentially going to the Chiefs. I'd rather extend Frank Clark and L'Jarius Sneed first, or not Frank Clark, Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed first. In all honesty, um, sorry, uh, but yeah, just checking in on Frank Clark and L'Jarius Sneed and working that deal out before you sign anybody is my number one priority, in all honesty. Like that's kind of where I sit in terms of who I want signed and who I want released and blah blah blah. I'd rather keep Chris Jones and Frank Clark. Or Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. Goodness gracious. Um, but yeah, that, the whole DeAndre Hopkins thing, I'm just so over. Chiefs don't need him. They really don't. It would be nice to have a true number one, but how many years does DeAndre Hopkins have left in him? Like he's still performing at a decent caliber, but I mean, how much of that does he have left in the tank? In my opinion, I think the Chiefs should sign a younger number one that they can find next year. I'm pretty sure Terry McLaurin will be back on the block next year, and I think that's a great selection for the Chiefs. Terry McLaurin, or I think Debo Samuel potentially could be back on the block. And there might be a couple others. Tyler Lockett. I know Tyler Lockett's been around for a while too. But DeAndre Hopkins, whether they sign him or not, again, is no. It means nothing to me. I would rather extend Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. So that's just my general thoughts on the Chiefs free agency situation. Like I said, they start OTAs, so getting to be that time. Gonna go to the Chiefs Browns preseason game, so that'll be fun. But in other tidbits, we got some Blues news, some Blues trivia night news. Trivia night at the American Legion in Parkville is on June 9th at 6:30. Be there, answer some trivia questions, potentially win some prizes, have some fun, drink some beers, have some good food, and be merry. It's going to be a great time. I'm really looking forward to it as someone who is one of the main organizers of this whole thing. So, um, yeah, no, it should be a great time. I highly suggest you come out. Tickets are $30, and it all goes toward the club. Going to be a great, great night. So, here's to hoping to see you there. It's going to be a fundraiser to kind of kick off seventh season, and we're trying to raise $3,000. So, anything helps. So, come on out, have a great time. It's going to be fun. So that's our show for the night. Thank you so much for joining me on this little journey of ours. Um, Show should come out as scheduled. Wait, potentially not actually. I will be in Lexington this coming Sunday, Lexington, Kentucky, at a friend's engagement party. So potentially we're gonna be releasing the show again. Probably on Monday. I'm not sure because I also start class on Monday, so we'll work that out as we go. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm a very busy man. I'm only one man that does this whole operation by himself. Please have pity. Um, but yeah, we'll get something sorted for next week. Articles should be posted as scheduled, so don't worry about that. Um, but be on the lookout for those. And other than that, this has been the Burn KC. I have been your host, Alex Blackburn. Have a great night. Have a safe and happy rest of your Memorial Day. And yeah, we'll see you next week. This is the Burn KC signing off.